topics. And because of the way we're structured, they often focus on media development, journalists, media house sustainability. Like that tends to be what those topics are. My team is thematic, we are global, and we focus on digital rights. So my guess is if you reached out to a regional office about a digital rights or digital security issue, that isn't what they fund. So if you're reaching out to my team, we fund digital rights, but we are contingent on the funding we're currently receiving and the projects we're implementing right now. So you would need to talk to me directly to see if there's a connection there. We sometimes put out open calls for funds. We had 2 in the last 18 months. And those were very specific topics around digital rights advocacy, which is normally what we fund. So you reach out to me and I can let you know more about specifically our issues. And then I'm also happy to start answering the question about how we engage with emerging civil society groups, I think was the question. And I can speak specifically for Internews and not any other organization in this matter. We, are you with Article 19 or Paradigm? Okay, so you know our relationship with Paradigm Initiative. We often will try and find small groups and build them up over a series of years. And that is, so we start by providing a small amount of funding to groups. We often are the first grant that some groups receive. And then we try and work with them in different capacities over the years. So we've worked with Paradigm, I think, for 5 or 6 years at this point. And at this point, given the size of the funding we can provide, obviously we're not a huge funder of your organization because we can't at this point. But what we try and do is then, as organizations grow, work with them in different ways based on our capacity to do so. So now we work with Paradigm as a mentor, and we leverage their knowledge for other groups that are new and starting to help them grow. So that's how we engage with civil society and kind of work with them in different capacities over the years. I don't know if that answers your question. Oh, and then you had a question about getting multiple applications from the same organization. I think that really depends on your funder. I get questions when we have open calls about that. We don't see an issue. It looks weird if we get 7 applications from the same organization about multiple different things. It then feels like your organization is just like throwing things out there and seeing what sticks, as opposed to doing something that is true to their mission and strategic for you. So I think if you're sending multiple applications, be clear about why you're doing that.
Thank you for appreciating the bluntness. So, to be blunt, again, it's not our role, it's not what we do as Google. However, you need to spend a bit more time looking at google.org, right? You know, I referred to it earlier, the non-profit arm of Google, that has periodic calls for proposals, ongoing calls sometimes, right? And the third layer, there's the possibility that there might be existing initiatives that you can plug into that speak specifically to digital skills. So do we get, particularly me, do I end up getting unsolicited proposals? Do you have to wait for a call for proposals? I'm one of the easiest funders you can work with. I don't stress about, oh, there was no call for proposal, etc. I will look at proposals. However, one of the things that really ticks institutions like mine off is when you send irrelevant proposals. Spend time before you ask me, oh, can I send you this proposal? Spend time actually understanding what the priorities are. And to get the word out there again, ACE, access, content, education. Ability to be able to recognize where the connections are on that makes it easier for us to have a conversation. Otherwise, sincerely, it's a waste of time, my time, but more importantly, your limited time to be able to focus, all right? But when I'm at these things, I'm open to having conversations, but increasingly, I am becoming very direct about indicating it's not a good use of your time to engage with Internews on trying to solve problems around HIV/AIDS.
Unless you're getting information out there about HIV/AIDS, in which case maybe, but that's not my team, that's a different team, and it's a different conversation.
But not to, pay for the vaccine. I'm not going to pay for it.
I wanted to very quickly follow up on a point Brittany had made, because I think, just speaking in terms of larger donor funding, I know I mentioned beforehand there are a lot of steps you have to go through to demonstrate capacity for specifically U.S. government grants. One thing that I would again highlight for civil society interested in submitting applications to larger donors is to use the experiences you've had working with partners like Internews and managing those funds on those projects. That, to us at the State Department, is a perfectly valuable example of your organization's capacity to manage funding. I think oftentimes there's a notion that in order to receive USG funding, for instance, you have to have received a grant from the U.S. government in the past, and that's not the case. Specifically for DRL funding, it's really cheesy, but are branded as kind of the venture capitalists within the State Department, which I cringe in saying. But something that does give us is the flexibility to work with smaller organizations that may not have a large administrative arm or have a ton of experience working directly with U.S. government funding. So again, just thinking about how you can leverage the great work that you've already done and already have demonstrated success in your applications to larger donors as well.
Thank you. So, okay, I was sorry.
Okay.
Please, Omni, please. Okay. Please, guys, sir.
All right. Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Remy Weke. I work for Digital Sense Africa Media. I want to commend the panelists. At the same time, I want to also find out from them, are there media-specific calls that you people make? I know Google used to do some, but I would like to get it across the platforms. And then also, in terms of feedback that you normally do, how much energy or time do your organizations focus on feedback in terms of encouraging them to find out where there are loopholes in order probably to improve on what they have done previously with their submissions? Thank you.
Maybe I will start with responding to a few questions. He did ask, I did not get in which region, where is he from? I didn't hear properly, but for Osiwa, we don't have, okay, from Nigeria. We don't have a media-specific call. We have a call for proposal, just overall call for proposal for all of our interventions. But we do have a media focus, a media sub-team with dedicated budget and priorities. And what we look at, we have 3 priority areas for what we call free, quality, and independent media in West Africa. It's about the legal framework, what are the laws, regulations, that govern media and press in general in West Africa, and how to strengthen and to foster conducive legal framework for media to flourish and for press for freedom of expression and information. We do look at the economic ecosystem. What are the tax, fiscal regimes, funding, financing of media, funding opportunities, and business models, etc. So for media sustainability, and of course the access to information, access content, quality media, and we do support lots of investigative journalism work, especially as it relates to governance and human rights entry points. Looking at how we do engage with organization, as Osiwa, in our mandate, we state that we want to strengthen civil society organization. So the demand side in terms of governance and human is very important, it's key to us. Civic participation, civic engagement. So which means that for us it's key, it's perennial to have strong civil society organizations that are able to voice citizens' concern and to put pressure on government, on private sector, etc., to deliver on citizens' needs. So which means that in our approach, when we work with organizations, we don't dismiss requests on the basis that organizations are either new, as they are just been forged. We look at the relevance of their work, and in many a times, we have been like the first-time funders of organization. I can cite many organizations that were just constituted, especially youth organization, women's-led organization. We think that they need, and for us, we consider ourselves as being flexible enough, and those who would be taking risk into funding organizations that would not, that would not find it easy to find first-time funders. It's just because of their nature, because of the nature of their work, or because of how they are constituted. So this means also when we receive proposals, we look at the relevance of the issue first, and we engage when we find the issue relevant. Then we can engage with the organization to see if there is need to strengthen the proposal, if there is need to even contribute to building and to strengthening the organization itself. We do invest in that. So which means that, for instance, currently we are developing a concept on how to support community-based organization. If you look at our processes, if you look at our call of proposals, maybe they would be accessible and to use what we would call the usual suspects. Organizations that know us, that know our process, that know our language, that know our jargon, While out there, you have many relevant organizations that have relevant ideas, or nascent organizations, or organizations that are, or community-based, or associations that don't know the jargons or the narrative or the process of funding organizations like us, and for which we think that it's important to find ways and avenues to reach us out. So, so we do look a lot, and we try to keep in mind and to be very mindful of how our processes can block access to organizations that deserve to be supported. So which means that we try to be as open as possible. We try to be to develop flexible funding models depending on how organizations are well structured and what's how they are constituted, to enable greater access but also equal opportunities, because we place lots of attention on the relevance of the ideas, on the contexts. Maybe if you compare Nigeria to Niger or to Togo, it's not the same context. So the ecosystem is not the same for organization, for individuals. So we keep all that in mind to find a balanced approach. Yeah, I think I will leave the. Unfortunately, looking at talking about feedback, I don't think, to be frank, that we devote enough time to give feedback, because we receive so many requests. We are so stretched. We are limited staff. Like, I am in Senegal. I cover Senegal. I cover our media work. So I have the chance. I have the opportunity to be in more direct contact with partners. But it's not the same if I have a partner in Niger or in Mali. The access is not the same. So we try as much as possible to give feedback, but I believe that we should do better because it's also a constructive manner of helping organization and concepts grow and be in line with your priorities and our priorities.
Thank you. So out of that, we can't take any more questions because of time. Lunch is one served very soon, 1:30. But I'm going to just give our panelists just give us a last word, last thoughts. And I'm sure they are still here, so you can still meet them outside and chat and link up. Thank you very much. So, yeah, just last thoughts. Last word. As we close the panel.
On the last panel I was on, I tried to summarize everything, and I'm not going to do that here. My last thoughts for you are, I think just be aware of who your funder is. I think is the one thing that came out a lot. Some of your funders are based in the region in which you're located. I am not. All my programs are global. There's a lot of countries in the world. So if there's an issue going on in your country, reach out to the funder. If you already have a relationship, be in touch with them to let them know. It's also on you to educate the funder on the issues, because we try as much as we can to be aware of what is going on everywhere in the world, but there are things we aren't going to notice. So do be in touch. If you see a funder at a conference and there's something going on in your region, I've had people pull me aside and be like, hey, do you have 10 minutes? I'd like to talk to you about what's going on in Sri Lanka. And I'm happy to do that. So those are opportunities that you have, even if there's no funding directly tied to it. Just be aware of building that relationship and being on people's radar. And I think that makes a huge difference in the long run. When we finally get funding for Sri Lanka, for instance, you'll be the first person that's top of my list to call if we want to do work in that region. Would be my takeaway.
Building off of that, on the point of building relationships at these types of events, as I think a few of my fellow panelists noted throughout our conversation today, we all are aware of the other actors who fund programs in this space. So in addition to keeping in touch with specific funders that you think may align with your organization's mission, also just check in with those people every now and then, keep in touch with them, because again, I think something that was mentioned multiple times throughout the panel is even if we can't fund your work, if it's something that's really important and you've got a really strong concept, we often are in touch with one another and can put you in contact with someone who might meet your own mission. That's not to say, as TT mentioned, you shouldn't do your background research on what might make the most sense, but if you're working on a few projects, if you've got a concept coming to fruition, just keep those open lines of communication because I think, ultimately our goal is to support your work.
I know it's round of tops, but I have a question. So of the people who chose to come to this panel, of all the other panels that are going on right now, how many of you actually, maybe it's not show hands because that night, how many of you actually took the time to research who and what organization was going to be here and what they focus on?
Yeah.
That's a good example of what you can do. For me, I will be honest, and I think I have shared this in rounding up. I come to these meetings with my antennas up. I want to be able to engage. I might not be focused on this now. I might have a strategy coming up. I want to see what's out there. Who do I need to talk to? I trust Paradigm to convene a really good conversation. Therefore, I want to be able to see who has been invited to that conversation. So I have done my research. It's the same thing you need to be able to do, such that when you have an opportunity to grill folks who have millions and millions and millions of dollars, that you actually take that opportunity to drop, like a private sector institution, your 3-minute pitch or 30 seconds, so that you stay on our radars and we want to know more.
I shouldn't have added anything after what she said. And it's about it's a knowing your audience. So I think it's very important to know and to be assertive in a relevant manner in the way that you try to really know who you are talking to. Um, the other thing I would say is that from my understanding, from what I see most of the time, I meet many persons like you who have great ideas but who don't know how to go about it. And it happens a lot. People come to me and say, oh, I want to do this, or I have this, and I say, oh, okay, but go on OSIWA website, read our, you will see how it, fits, where it fits, and I never hear from them again. And I'm sure that, the great idea is there. And people sometimes would complain, oh, this organization don't support, but you never just requested a funding. You just never tried. So give it a try. Talk to people you know. Reach out to people. Ask information. I told you that, we notice that from proactive engagement we get better better quality proposals. So it means that if you have the right information, you do your homework, you come to people, you ask information, and you tailor properly your work, you have a greater chance to have funding. Because we just exist for the sake of supporting you. Other than that, we are irrelevant. And if you don't achieve your goals, en tout cas, oui. At least for OSIWA, if you don't, organization will support, we are our extended hands. It's through this organization. We don't do direct intervention most of the time. We do implement some operational activities, do some advocacy, but it's through organization that we support that we achieve our strategic goals. So just to reassert that you are our raison d'etre, and for you, and from, so just find the right entry point, the right way to approach and to seek funding or to seek support. We don't even call our partners grantees, because we believe we are partners. We build together the ideas. We believe in co-creation, in co-thinking, and so take the opportunity, take the lead, because whatever we write in our strategy, it is coming from you guys. Because when we do our exercise, our strategy cycle, our strategy writing, we go to our constituents, we ask them what's relevant, what do they think that we need to look at in our different countries on the issues we are interested in. And it's from that input, from those inputs, that we write our strategy. So this is our.
Thank you very much. So if you enjoyed today's session, please put your hand for our panelists. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and for yourselves too. So thank you for taking the time to speak today, and hopefully this conversation will continue. They're still around for a while, so just try to connect. Yeah. So thank you, and lunch is served. Please, so you just go to the ground floor, but please notice between 1:30 and 2:30 strictly, so 1 hour. So just try to take a lunch between that 1 hour space. Thank you, and have a nice DRIFT 2019 as it closes today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, okay, Brittany, you want to take a photograph?